Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, welcome. 4 minutes after the hour on this 18th day of March in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and welcome to this Tuesday edition of The View from a Pew. It's called Max World Live, and we always have Tom Coates in. And our guest canceled with 11 minutes to go before the show. And that happens. That's okay. And so Tom and I are going to hopefully rely on you a little bit and keep the phone lines open. Frank, if you're listening, you can even call in and pontificate. 244-0077 is the local number. Toll-free long-range 1-855-244-0077. And lots of stuff to talk about today going on in politics. But let's start out with this missing plane.
Okay.
This just fascinates me.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you've got almost every television and radio talk show giving their theory on what they think happened to this plane. Yeah. Because breaking news, plane missing from Malaysia is now, what, 9 days old?
Yes.
10 days old?
Something like that, yeah.
The latest thing they're doing is now they're looking into these two Muslim pilots. And one of them had a very expensive, what do you call that? Flying
camel?
No. Ryan, what's it called? Well, it's the computer thing. It sets up like you're flying, just like you're really in a plane.
All right.
And I know somebody's laughing at me out there because they know simulator.
Okay.
Flying simulator. He had one of these in his house, so the FBI, whoever it was, came over and took it down and reassembled it in their office, trying to figure out if in the computer he might have put in the coordinates that the Malaysia flight was, and that didn't do anything. There were two people on the plane that had fake, well, not fake, they were stolen IDs and, man, I don't know my words today. The thing you need when you go overseas.
The passports.
Passport, thank you. I'm getting old, aren't I? These are senior moments. That didn't check out to be anything.
Yeah.
I can't believe this plane hit the water, because you'd think that there would be something somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, all the seats on those planes float. They make the doors so they float because they will pop into rafts. There's no oil slick. There's no diesel fuel. Are you telling me this plane just went in the water and there's no sign of it? Nothing broke off?
Well, I am sorry that we don't have the guest that we were scheduled to have, because this gentleman could have answered some of these questions that we have in front of us, and very little answers.
I'm just amazed. I'm really amazed, and I'm amazed to see what happens when we finally do locate this plane. I mean, was this stolen? Is somebody going to use this plane to fly into downtown China and bomb them? I don't get it.
I heard, again, all these experts are coming on the talk shows and talking about things. And somebody said yesterday that if that was the plan, it should have been turned around fairly quickly within a matter of short period of time and used in that fashion. And since it hasn't been, then the possibility, or the probability anyway, of it being weaponized for some major act of terror has declined.
And what do you do with 240 passengers?
Well,
you just shoot them?
Yeah. I mean, what do you do? I mean, they're so The probability, I think, is that it was diverted course and it ended up going down in the ocean, and eventually some parts will be found.
Well, that seems to be the most logical. But, the crackpots are coming out all over the internet with different theories about what they think happened to this.
And I just watched a movie. Took my wife to see this movie the other night with Liam Neeson. Nonstop was the name.
Okay.
And he's a U.S. Air Marshal, and he's up in the plane, and these terrorists, I won't spoil the movie, but much of what they were talking about and the way that they were talking, and finally the passengers jump him and try to overpower him because they think he's the one trying to skyjack the plane. Now, you had the majority of these passengers were Chinese nationals, so it's hard to know the mindset of the inscrutable Oriental.
Right.
But the likelihood is that people that are sophisticated enough to engage in air travel like this understand what went on 9/11 with us. And the probability is if there were one or two skyjackers trying to hijack this plane, that the passengers would have intervened, much as they did on the one that
crashed in the Philadelphia or the field.
That's right. Much in that same way. And so it is a possibility that at some point the passengers got involved, and it would have gone down perhaps in the ocean, and it's just taken a while to get any of the wreckage back up. I mean, you and I have no expertise in this area. All I'm doing is just repeating some of what I've heard as you are.
Yeah, it baffles me in the year 2014 that we can lose a plane of that size and all those passengers with the radar and the technology and the satellites that we have, and we have zero. We have nothing. Now, yesterday, the United States pulled back its Navy. I should say this. There's no more American ships looking for this. Now we're using the big radar planes that can fly for hours and hours and hours.
Right.
And UWACS or WEWACS or whatever those are called.
AWACS.
Mm-hmm. So now they're using that. So they're not even, we don't have battleships out there anymore or anything looking for this. But it will be interesting if this plane is never found.
Yes, it will be. It will remain a mystery. I mean, some of the goofy things that are being floated around, including supernatural explanations, UFO explanations, and what was the triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, that all these things were supposedly lost. Now that's been shifted over to the Malaysia area, and we've got a new Bermuda Triangle. I don't know.
Well, the strange thing about this is that somebody had to manually shut off the beacon that follows this plane. Somebody had to manually shut that off. And I saw a report on the news with somebody, I don't remember who it was, that this isn't something that you'd accidentally hit. It is located in the plane where you have to purposely go and do this and to shut it off. But
and
the
there
battery
could have been a fire or something that might have shorted some of this out.
The battery on the thing only lasts 30 days.
Yeah.
So in 21 more days, they're never going to find that plane based on the beacon.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I just
the thing
just baffles me.
It is an interesting mystery, and it's kind of like the OJ trial. You remember how much that was one of the first celebrity events that the media really got a hold of.
Yeah.
The slow-paced chase, and then the OJ trial. Since then, we've seen a lot of celebrity issues come up. And they're treating this kind of like they think the public's attention is on it, and they have done almost 24/7 coverage about this plane, similar to what they did the OJ trial and many things since. What it's done, though, it's taken the focus off of arguably much more important issues, including the Russian incursion into the Ukraine area, the questionable vote with the Crimeans, and the ridicule that's coming back on us, and particularly Obama. I don't know if you've seen any of the stories lately, Mac, but Obama and his State Department have actually sanctioned certain Russian officials.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, one of them tweeted back something along the lines that, kind of laughing at Obama and saying, did some prankster put this list together?
Yeah.
Because it was kind of a funny list. And as she started digging down into the list involved people like a female legislator over there in the Russian parliament that had nothing to do with this instance, but she's kind of the moral arbiter of much what goes on, and she has put in place some of the legislation that dealt with homosexuality over there in Russia. And so as you looked at the list, many of the people on the list have nothing to do with this incident, but the Obama leftists want to punish them in some fashion for the stand they've taken opposed to the homosexuals over there. So they're laughing at our president. They're calling him a prankster. Another thing I saw had Obama in a Russian military outfit. They've superimposed his head on somebody with a Russian military outfit as if he's obeying orders. That we talked about before, the so-called private conversation he was having with Medvedev before the election, telling him to pass the word on to Vlad, that give him a little room right now because after the election he'll have a lot more flexibility. And at this point, Putin's exploring how much flexibility our clown of a leader has, because they're laughing at him. Mac, you have to go back a few years, and most of your audience will remember how much George Bush was talked about in our own press, having no respect. The people overseas had no respect for this cowboy. We've got to restore credibility in this country. Well, the reality was just the opposite, because while many of the people overseas perhaps didn't like Bush, they did respect him. And I think the reality that most people have arrived at is that if Bush were still the president instead of this bozo, that Putin would not have had the temerity to do whatever he wants to, that Bush would have put his foot down. The reality is that now we do have a leader. The Biden went over to Poland to assure the rest of that Eastern Bloc that America was going to stand tall, draw those lines in the sand and make sure that none of this happened to them. I'm sure that's as assuring as Obama going over there a few years ago as a rookie senator and assuring the Ukraine that the Russians wouldn't do anything, and we signed a treaty with them to get them to turn over their nuclear and conventional weapons. They virtually disarmed the Ukraine military with the promise that NATO and the United States and even Russia signed on to that treaty, but Obama physically went over and helped negotiate that. And now you won't hear that in the media, because that's a further embarrassment that this guy promised one thing and cannot even start to consider delivering on it.
All right, now hold on. You got to talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. So Barack Obama went to Ukraine, the same area, the same government that was overthrown, and said, if you turn over your weapons, we'll support you. All right. Isn't that what he's doing, though, by standing up to Putin?
He's not standing up to him. What has he done?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
He's rolled over. Crimea, Russia's not going to give it back. In fact, this is probably just the first step. I think that you will find most of the foreign policy experts will tell you that this isn't a first and only step. This is just the first step. This is a very strategic part of the world. They have their natural gas that they supply to the rest of Europe going through there. They have a lot of mineral wealth. They are a passway through to the rest of those countries that at one point were part of the Soviet Union that broke away. And so this is a strategic move on a chessboard by Putin, who, by the way, is looking very good right now and probably not happy that this country and the rest of the world is so focused on this missing plane. He would probably rather, after all of the time he spent burnishing himself up, getting some Botox injections and pumping some weights, he probably wants the spotlight on him and not happy that he's not able to get it. And he's certainly gotten more bang for his buck on his own personal than John Kerry's gotten on his Botox and plastic surgeries.
1-855-244-0077. That's the number to call. We'd love to have your voice participating. It's an open line, which means if you want to bring up a different topic, let's talk about it. Today live on The View from a Pew on KTIA, Iowa.
Across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you needle credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
21 minutes after the hour on the 18th day of March in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is The View from a Pew, Max World Live with Tom Coates today. By the way, did you do anything for St. Patrick's Day?
No, but let me, before we move on to another subject.
Well, we've got Frank, remember?
I know we do.
Okay.
And we're going to move on.
Frank, are you there?
I want to mention two things, Mac.
Okay.
I want to give a plug for the upcoming Iowa Prayer Breakfast.
Yep.
Some of your listeners will probably have some interest in it. Our keynote speaker this year, it's always on Maundy, Thursday, ahead of Easter.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts at 7:15 down at the old Vets Auditorium.
Right.
Down in there. And it's a great event. We've got Simon Estes. He'll be singing. He'll be speaking. We've got the governor. We've got other legislators. Last year, I think we had 1,300 people. We're expecting a big crowd again this year. But if you have any interest, go on the website, the Iowa Prayer Breakfast, and you can reserve some seats. And it's only $20 to get in. And there's sponsorship opportunities. I'm the chair of the finance committee. We're doing corporate and church sponsorships. You're taking advantage of one again this year. And so I wanted to get that plug out there, and also get a little plug because I'm about to become a grandfather for the 7th time starting tomorrow. My one daughter is about to be induced, and we'll welcome our 7th grandchild to the family.
And you've got 4 boys and 2 girls.
That's exactly right. So we'll see whether the boys increase their majority or it's closer to parity.
Now, do you think this is the last grandchild?
I think until my son kicks in gear, I think this will be the last one. We've got a son that's in his late 20s that has yet to be heard from. We're in no hurry, but
Well, he's not married, though.
that's right. Like I said,
Yeah.
he's got to start going steady. He's in Hawaii working for FedEx right now, and he's got to get a steady gal before we expect to see anything going there.
Well, that's a tough gig, though, living in Hawaii. But it's not cheap.
It is not cheap.
Yeah, everybody thinks, oh, I'd love to live in Hawaii because it's paradise. And it is, because my son also, my oldest son lived over there for a while. It's terrible expensive.
Yes.
Terrible expensive. All right, Frank, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Did you hear me call on you?
No, I didn't. I heard the voice. I heard something about the voice, and that might have been my signal.
Yeah. We our guest canceled 11 minutes before the beginning of the show today.
Well, a couple of things. I'm going to have to chastise Tom for that bozo remark. He might be disparaging people with red hair.
That's right. Painted faces and red noses. That's right. I agree with you.
Well, listen, I called to talk about the congressional race in Florida, but before I get to that, if I could, about a day or two after this skyjacking or whatever they want to call it, my immediate reaction was how much fuel range does this plane potentially have, and where they think it could have landed, could it reach the United States shores from that point? But I'm beginning to think the more likely target, if there's nefarious if they're up to nefarious no good with this plane, I would say that the more likely target would be Israel. And what if they loaded this plane up with some of these Chinese nationals that were captured on board, and this thing's headed for Jerusalem or Israel, somewhere over there, and the Israelis have to shoot this down, and China doesn't look too fondly on that.
So who's got the plane then?
Well, I'm not saying the plane couldn't be in water, but at this point, I'm really seriously doubting it. The speculation is Pakistan, Indonesia. I guess there's a great presence of Al Qaeda in Malaysia. I just have a feeling the plane is intact. I can't prove that, but I have a feeling the plane's intact, and it's going to be used as a guided missile at some point. If they can possibly load it up with enough explosives.
Could be right, Frank, but there's a limited number of airstrips that you can land a plane that big on. You just can't pull it down in the middle of a field and expect to be able to get it back up again.
Well, I agree. I mean, I've heard all the people who know about the stuff saying you'd have to have somewhere between a 3,000 to 5,000 foot runway to put it down, and getting it refueled and all kinds of things. I'm not sure, but with Pakistan not being half of our friend, half of our enemy, and kind of being upset about the bin Laden thing, I don't know. I mean, they're speculating it could have reached Pakistan.
Yes, I've heard that speculation.
But now, that all to me is what's the fuel range, and I've never heard the fuel range, totally loaded up where this thing could go from point A to point B.
Yeah, because it had just taken off.
But I wanted to talk about the congressional race in Florida.
Good.
And what this bodes for the Democrats.
Mm-hmm. For the listeners, lay out the race. Tell them about it, Frank.
Well, obviously the governor candidate for the Democrats, Alex Sink, who ran against Scott, I can't think of his first name, in the last gubernatorial race down in Florida, was brought in to run against the retired congressman's somebody in his office name. I guess it's David Jolly.
I'm looking it up.
It's Jolly's last name. I'm not sure the first name.
That's right.
But there was a lot of money poured into the race, a 4-to-1 differential between what Jolly was receiving and Alex Sink.
It was a big disparity between what the Democrats spent and what the Republicans were able to spend.
And they had a lot of heavyweights. If you want to include Joe Biden, you might laugh
That's
at that.
the same. I think Joe Biden over in Poland is as good a place as any for him. I don't know he's a heavyweight, but go ahead, Frank.
They had Joe Biden, they had the Clintons come in and run interference for this Alex Sink. Now, the thing that the media is missing, Of course, the Democrats are trying to spin it that that this was a Republican district and she wasn't likely to win anyway.
What's the district number? Do you know?
13, I believe.
13. Okay.
Well, now that's a spin, Frank, because you know, and many of your listeners may know, that Obama carried that same district in the last 2 elections.
Twice, exactly.
That's right.
But the thing the Democrats have failed to mention is this woman's name recognition. She was a statewide candidate against a virtually nobody.
That's exactly right. And being outspent, the fact this district is at best a swing district. It had a Republican congressman, but it had voted for Obama twice. It was capable of going either way, and the Democrats had the thing scored down as a pickup seat.
Yes, well, she clearly got he clearly got outspent 4-1. But the ironic, but ironically, anyway.
The irony?
Irony. There you go. The irony of the situation is that whenever there is outside money spent by a Democrat, it just goes silent in the media. But whenever there's outside money coming in for a Republican, they're all over that. And I heard somebody mention that there was zero money spent by the terrible, dastardly Koch brothers for David Jolly. So this is a colossal pie in the face for the Democrats, and for them to spend it any other way is just absurd. And I think this pretends if the Republicans will get their head out of their rear this coming fall, I think you could see a shellacking of colossal proportion.
Well, let me read something here. They had a debate the other night, and the moderator tossed Sink a question. She started to answer, still unamplified. They had not turned her microphone on yet. Your microphone, said a voice in the crowd. Turn your microphone on. I'm sorry, said Sink. She found her footing. When her turn came, she sarcastically thanked Jolly for changing his positions. Jolly, a far better speaker than Sink, passionately accused her of lying. Neither candidate talked much about the Affordable Care Act. The moderator, a college professor who had brought her class to the debate, asked one question about the law, and it was this. We have employees who are on the lower side of the wage gap who are having their hours reduced under 40 hours because of Obamacare, said Jolly. Sink ignored that. She talked about Medicare and Social Security. I mean, these guys do not like each other.
No, they don't. And you know, some of the rap has come in that the establishment Republicans have tried to say, don't take from this that this is a referendum on Obamacare. There's a lot of other issues at stake. But Obamacare is a pivotal issue here, and it will be, as Frank's pointing out, in the fall elections. Now, the difference is this woman, she claimed that she wanted to fix Obamacare, that there were certainly some problems that she couldn't argue, but she wanted to keep it and fix it. Jolly, on the other hand, wanted to get rid of it and replace it. And that's a big difference than saying you want to keep it and fix it versus getting rid of the whole thing and then making some adjustments to make insurance more accessible.
Well, now, Tom, you got to get in the loop there if you want to be cool. It was amended, not ended.
Yeah, right. But you know what I'm saying,
You're
Frank,
right.
and I think this is a big deal. And hopefully the Republicans are really paying attention that the Obamacare thing is a winner, but it's not a winner to keep it and fix it like some of or amend it, as you say, Frank, like some of the establishment Republicans want to do.
Well, Jolly was saying end it.
Yes, that's what he was. He said end it, and then replace it. He was talking about doing some things that would help the health care accessibility and the affordability, but he wanted to totally get rid of Obamacare, and I do think that was a big deal.
But then, above and beyond that, when this woman ran against Scott for governor in a couple of years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever it was, Scott beat her only by a razor-thin margin. I mean, it was razor thin down there that he beat her in a statewide race. So this woman had the best name recognition you could get, and she lost to a virtual nobody on Obamacare alone. And I don't see how the Democrats can spin that any other way. I know they will try.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to ignore it, for one thing, Frank. They're not wanting to talk about it, period. But if you're right, if it had been the flip side, if a Republican nobody had been beaten by this woman that, as you say, ran a very tight race for a statewide seat as governor, they would have acted like this was a David and Goliath thing the other way. Here you're turning a Republican seat over to a Democrat. It's going to be any referendum vote this fall. Look, this woman came out of nowhere to unseat this Republican seat, which wouldn't have been right. I think you're close to the truth. But because it happened the way it happened, the media across the country has virtually ignored this. I think you've had to turn to Fox News or one of the talk shows to hear much about this race at all.
I think the other tip-off, though, on this whole thing is the fact that you have at least 5 senators, to my count. You have Begich up in Alaska, and you have McCaskill down in Missouri that has basically told Obama point blank, don't come to our states, you're not popular here. And you've got Kay Hagan in North Carolina, you got Mary Landrieu in Louisiana, and you got the Pryor down in Arkansas. Those 5 have basically just distanced this Obama like he's a hot potato. They don't want anything to do with the guy.
Yeah, they've seen their internal polling. I think you're right, Frank. He's increasingly, well, every time a new poll comes out on his popularity numbers, he hits a new one.
And you're seeing no coverage on this by MSNBC or CNN.
No.
The only ones that you're hearing any of this from is Fox and talk radio.
That's right.
All right, Frank, you hang on. We're going to hold on to you for a little bit, and we'll come back in just a minute. We want to talk a little bit more on the national political level, and then I want to talk about the presumed upcoming death of Fred Phelps, and how as Christians should we feel about this. We'll continue this conversation live. We'd love to have your voice. 244-0077 live here on The View from a Pew on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there, they're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Before the top of the news is Salem Radio Network News, and we'll get the latest on the situation in Russia, as well as if there's anything new on this missing plane and whatever else the top of the news is. Of course, the top of the mind for most Republicans and Democrats right now is the fall elections. It's the 2-year elections, and I believe, and Frank, tell me if this is wrong, I think that there are 6 or 7 races that look like they could go Republican, which could turn the Senate into a Republican-controlled House.
Well, House or Senate?
Senate.
Well, I want to tell you, looking at the rundown, there's about 2 that's in danger for the Republicans. Mitch McConnell and, let's see, I can't remember the other one right off the top of my head. But I would say of the, I think there's 20 Democratic seats up. I think there's a little less than 15 for Republican. I see all 20 in play. I don't see a safe safe Democrat seat out there. I mean, really. I mean, they say if Scott Brown jumps into New Hampshire, that'll be a close race. All these races are going to be very close.
I thought Scott Brown did jump.
He's very close because he has 7 generations of people buried in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And he personally has a home in New Hampshire. And they brought up last night that Jean Shaheen has no room to talk about carpetbagger because she came from Missouri 20 years ago. So, they claim that that's going to come into play.
Hey, Frank, how come Scott Brown, I know he got beat by Elizabeth Warren, but why didn't he go for Lurch's seat when he went in to become the Secretary of State?
I think he's got designs on the Senate-ship.
Well, the Senate seat that came open when John Kerry took the Secretary of State was in Massachusetts also.
Right.
Why didn't he run for that seat? He was a sitting U.S. Senator who got ousted in a tight election to Elizabeth Warren in a more of a Democrat year. Why wouldn't he have then gone for John Kerry's seat?
And who ran for that seat?
I don't remember. He didn't get it. But it was felt at that point that if Scott Brown had run, he could have taken that seat, and he didn't do it. Now he's going to jump to New Hampshire and run for a Senate seat there. I don't understand that one.
Well, I think he may think that he has a little bit better of a chance to win in New Hampshire because of the family roots.
Yeah.
Well, timing's better, I think.
And I don't think Jean Shaheen is that strong a candidate.
Okay.
And I think that's more likely why he's eyeing this race as opposed to that, the former race you're talking about.
Okay.
All right, let's just talk for a minute about what would happen if the Republicans would take control of the Senate. What does that mean for 2 years? I mean, I think Obama's already a lame duck, but that would obviously seal the deal. But now you've got a president who uses executive orders as often as I go through Burger King drive-through, and we have no idea what he may or may not choose to do with the executive order, especially as he nears the end of his position of power.
Well, obviously, this all hinges on whether the Republicans will back up their bluster. If they will actually have a set and a backbone and a spine to do what they said they're going to do, and that's end Obamacare. Defund it, whatever they got to do, vote it out of existence, whatever they have to do to get it done. But, they've shot their mouth off. Now it's time for them to put up or shut up if they win the Senate.
But wouldn't that, I mean, how does Hillary Clinton overcome the destruction and getting rid of Obamacare? And if you don't want to say Hillary's going to be the nominee, then you can pick somebody else, whoever that nominee is.
Well, Hillary's in a weird position because she not only has to distance herself from Obama, and distanced herself on Obamacare, a very unpopular bill. But she's put forth the idea that she's just going to tinker around the edges on it. See, here's the problem that I brought up with your guest here a couple of weeks ago or last week. This thing is going to collapse, but it's not necessarily going to go away. No government program ever goes away. So if you get Hillary, you're going to get more tinkering around the edges. So obviously the first step is to gain the Senate, and I think ultimately to do away with this thing totally. I think the Republicans can throw roadblocks and they can throw all kinds of stuff out in front of this, but their only hope is once they gain the Senate, they're going to have to get the White House in 2016 to ultimately get rid of it.
Well, and Hillary is obviously the leading candidate, but there's some interesting.
She was also the leading candidate 6 years ago.
Well, I know it.
Let's not forget that.
With some of the backroom dealing that's gone on, and there's never been any good rapport between the Clintons and the Obamas. Who knows where it goes back to? It probably goes back just fact we got 4 huge egos in the same room. But when Obama was up for re-election this last time, his people said, "You're running too close to Romney. We need some additional help. Reach out to Bill Clinton, who's a heck of a campaigner." And they cut a deal that if Bill would go out on the stump and do everything he could to get Barack Obama reelected, that Obama would then in turn support Hillary for
instead of Biden.
That's right. But once he was elected, he went back and reneged on the deal, and Bill Clinton demanded a sit-down meeting in the White House where all 4 of them were, Michelle and Barack and Hillary and Bill, and Bill just raised Cain, saying, "You already agreed to this. I worked like a dog to get you reelected, and now you're going to back up on me? No way."
Well, I can't tell you exactly where it started, but it was Hillary's operative that dug up any information on a question of Obama's citizenship. But furthermore, I think where the explosion in the road.
But she never used it in that election.
No. I think that was the ace card she was holding, that she thought she was going to sway the superdelegates at the convention.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where the rubber hit the road and exploded was the comments that was made in South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
That Jesse Jackson won this state too. And Bill was accused of throwing the race card, and that just absolutely put them on the crap list right out of the gate. And then Ted Kennedy and certain ones was for Obama and not for Hillary and not for the Clintons. See, the Clintons have spent their career. I've probably read more books than I should have. I probably read a dozen books on the Clintons from different authors and different angles. But they've spent their whole career schmoozing people for the exact thing that happened. And everybody was half-heartedly on Hillary's side, but they were hoping that there would be a viable candidate because they did not want another round of the Clintons. Clintons basically left D.C. in disgrace. Gores weren't for him. Gephardts weren't for him. There was all kinds of division in the Democratic Party. But they had all these smoothed-out favors that they were starting to call in, and everybody was half-heartedly on Hillary's team until they thought, well, can this Obama really do it? Can he actually get the nomination? And as he started coming out and winning, and the more he started winning, the more the delegates started jumping onto his side until they had all just about jumped ship on Hillary, and then she's keeping her enemies list of who was jumping ship on him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
What do you think, Frank? Will she run, and will she be the nominee in 16?
Well, I personally think there's some things that may be going on with her health that I don't know if her health is totally the best. I think if her health is okay, most likely she's going to.
Okay.
But I don't know how a 69-year-old woman who's going to be about the age of Ronald Reagan, and they bashed Reagan unmercifully for his age.
Yeah.
How she's going to offer anything change?
And you get a close-up look of her these days. She's not weathering all that well.
No, and you know what the presidency puts on any president? It puts 20 years on the freshest of looking guy that comes into the office. So you throw her in there at 69 years old, and you slap 20 years on that gal.
That's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? All right.
The leather on Hillary may be a little tougher than the pig's leather.
We are coming up on our last break, and when we come back, Frank, I want to talk from a Christian perspective on this Fred Phelps thing, because Fred is in hospice. He's close to dying. And what should we as Christians, what should our position be about Fred Phelps and his legacy in this community and in this country? We're coming back. Frank the Voice on the phone. Tom Coates in the house. Ryan producing. I'm Mac, and we're live on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue coming up at 4 to 4:30. I want to encourage you to listen to Pastor Ernest from the Victory Fellowship Christian Church in Jewell, Iowa. He's on at 11:45 every day. He was my guest last Friday on View from the Pew. And let me tell you something, Tom. You ought to meet this guy.
Okay.
This is the real deal. He came over from, I believe it was Switzerland, and he was a major player in a huge finance company. And he won't name it, but I think it was one of the huge world banks.
Uh-huh.
And then Jesus mugged him.
Ah.
And he left that world and became a pastor, and he pastors this little teeny church in Jewell. And this guy, I've had very few pastors come through this program and know their Bible like he did. He's a solid guy. Anyway, he's kind of got that Arnold Schwarzenegger accent.
Uh-huh.
You know, he's a little guy. But
Doesn't look like Arnold. But...
No, not at all. Thank heavens. All right, let's go back to Frank, who's on the phone. And here's the question. All right, Fred Phelps and Westboro Baptist Church in Kansas has always been the people for, I don't know how long, 20 years, 30 years? They're the people that show up and picket at different things. And then when the Iraq War started with Bush 1, then they started picketing soldiers' funerals.
Right.
And the only reason they did soldiers' funerals was because of the media attention.
Right.
They didn't have anything against the soldiers.
No.
They just used that as a media attention. And for some reason, obviously, that made a lot of people mad, that they would use that as a backdrop, their son or their daughter's funeral.
Right.
And I can understand that, if it was your kid.
Too. Yeah.
All right. So here's the question. And Frank, tell me what you think on this, and then we'll do the roundtable. As Christians, Should we be supporting what Fred Phelps has done, or should we run from him and say that we're not one of him?
Well, I've got a couple of thoughts on that. Obviously, they're misguided in some of their doctrine and theology, but then again, they're standing for what they believe. I mean, you almost got to give them an A+ for at least having the courage and the backbone to stand up against the wrath that they endure because of it. There will be a celebration when he dies. There's going to be a media celebration and a blog celebration, and the comments that come out when he dies is just going to be atrocious. I have some sympathy for anybody who proclaims the name of Christ, but I put a little thing on my Facebook last night. There's a lot of people who bear the name of Christ, but they're not all of them are in it for his cause.
Do you think Fred Phelps is?
Well, I think, like I say, I think he's misguided in some of his doctrine, but I don't understand. I think he was trying to make the point that we were in an illegal war, and that we were killing our soldiers were being killed, and we shouldn't celebrate that because they were being killed, rightfully so, for being in a war they shouldn't have been in. I didn't support that position.
But the signs, and I had Fred Phelps' daughter on my show a few years ago, and they also showed up at my church one Sunday morning and picketed outside the church, and we fed them. We took them out food, is what was how we handled that. Didn't shoo them off, didn't do anything like that. I think the thing that infuriates people is the sign that they would put up that says, and pardon the language, but God hates fags. Now,
well, he doesn't hate, again, going back to what we talked with Brother Ernest last Friday, God hates sin. John the Baptist didn't come to flatter the sinner. He come to tell the sinner they were in need of repentance. He rebuked their sin, and he told them they're in need of repentance. And I think too many churches today, I don't know that Fred is being a little strong using that word, that particular word. But he is not lacking in strength for saying homosexuality is wrong. Now, we want to love the person who's participating in it, and at the same time tell them the activity that they're engaged in is wrong in God's eyes.
Well, Frank, Mac has done more research on who Fred Phelps really is, and I want to hear more about that. But I would take issue with a couple things you said. One, you said hats off to him for, taking a strong stand and believing what he believes. Well, we could say that about the Muslim terrorists, Al-Qaeda and what have you. They believe fervently. I mean, to the point that they're willing to give up their own lives for what they believe. That doesn't mean that we need to take our hats off and salute them. And also, the Bible says that there are many of them out there that will call on my name, and I'll say, begone, I never knew you. I got to think that Phelps may well, I don't know what's in the man's heart, but I can see from the fruit of that tree that it's rotten. And the Bible tells us that when you measure the fruit that comes off of that tree, you got a pretty good idea what's the root of that tree, Mac. I want to hear more about who Fred Phelps was before we leave here.
Why was it rotten?
Why was it rotten?
Why was it rotten? Seriously.
Okay, you're asking me why when Phelps comes up and he pickets your church or a funeral of a good man that gave his life overseas for the military, and he puts additional grief and hurt on the families that are involved, why that fruit is rotten? Why that's a question that answers itself.
Well, one of the fruits of the Spirit is love. So obviously, without love, you have nothing. I mean, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but without love, you have nothing. You can have all the education in the world without love, you have nothing. So obviously, one of the main fruits of the Spirit is love. Now, as my grandpa used to say years and years ago, you're not allowed to judge, but you're allowed to inspect the fruit.
Now, one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and we're running out of time here, But Fred Phelps was a huge supporter of the Democratic Party, a big donor. He was also a candidate for governor in Kansas. This man was not a conservative Christian.
That's what he's been labeled at.
Yeah, this man was a flaming liberal who supported liberal programming, but was a pastor in the Baptist church. So
he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, is what you're saying, Mac. That's what I hear you saying.
Well,
Well, the trouble of it is the wheats and the tares have to grow together, and they will be sifted out in God's time. And it's above my pay grade to do the sifting. But, I don't know. It's just sad to me what's going to go on when the man does die. Just let the man die in peace and not...
Yeah, just like he's let all the others die in peace, right?
Well... We got to be better than they have been to us.
Okay.
Well, but Frank's got a point. They're going to come unglued. Frank, thanks for joining us today. Tom, thank you for being here, and we appreciate you guys listening. As always, we thank you for the time. Don't forget the Iowa Prayer Breakfast coming up Monday, Thursday. Tickets available at iowaprayerbreakfast.org.
I think that's right.
Right. Or contact Tom or I, and we'll get you tickets, and we'll make sure you get in there. All right, until we see each other again, do me a favor, pick out that person that you like the least, that you could never imagine being on their side or supporting them, the person that maybe hates you so much that you want to cross the street when you see them. That person, do me a favor. Tonight, pray for them.